All right, so I've given you the option to unmute yourself. That way, as we go around the room, some of the names I don't have. All I have is phone numbers. So I'll ask you by phone number to introduce yourself as once we get to the participants that are calling in. Again, thanks for joining us. This is a unique opportunity for me as a program manager in the Paralyzed Veterans of America and the Paving Access for Veterans Employment to bring together private sector partners, public sector partners, as well as other nonprofits that are here in the New York City area with the overarching goal of increasing employment opportunities for veterans. All of you have demonstrated in some capacity a passion for increasing opportunities for veterans, and I greatly appreciate that. I'm very thankful as a veteran myself, 12 years in the United States Marine Corps. It's always encouraging for me to see such passion in the civilian community that are making sure that veterans coming out of the military have an opportunity to gain meaningful employment. So that being said, we'll go ahead and kick it off with some introductions. I'm going to ask people that are in the room to introduce themselves first. After I introduce myself, again, I just realized I didn't tell everyone my name. I'm Andy Schwartz, the guy sending the emails. You just heard a little bit about me. I'm the PAVE program developer here in New York City. We have been in New York City for only a few short months. It's a very important space for us, though, because we see New York City as a catalyst for great things, not only among PVA and the the Paving Access for Veterans Employment Program, but also for the veterans community as a whole. With New York City being probably the loudest megaphone in the world, if we can succeed here and come up with a replicable program, it'll be easy to implement in other parts around the United States. So we've got one more that just walked in. So we're just going to go around the table really quick and introduce ourselves, and we'll start with Christine. I don't know if you're, yeah, it is on over there. If you could just kind of speak into that conference monitor over there so everyone on the phone can hear you as well. Yeah, and where you're from.
My name is Christine Watts. I'm from Memorial Sloan Veterans Justice Center.
Thank you.
Hi, this is training and CDD.
My name is Molly Pearl, and I manage the Service Together program at Intersections International.
Giovanni Tavares, New York State Veteran Chamber of Commerce.
Osvaldo Pereira, New York City Department of Veteran Services.
All right, thank you very much for those that are at the table. I've got on the line Charles Williams. If you could unmute yourself and give us a brief introduction, please. CW, you there? Can anyone hear me? Am I talking to no one? All right, let's move on to the next person. Area code Robert Perkins from Fort Hamilton. Oops. Robert, are you there?
Should I call in on my phone?
I'm not muted, am I?
No, you're not muted. We can hear you.
Okay. Robert, you there? All right, we got 210-221-1112. Who's this?
Frank Stanley, how are you?
Hey, Frank. Thanks for joining us. Give us a brief introduction about your potential, your imminent opportunity and what you'll be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. Frank Stanley, I'll be the incoming manager of Veterans Initiatives and Programs for Cushman & Wakefield. Currently, I'm still on active duty out of Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio.
Awesome. Yeah, Cushman & Wakefield's been a huge partner of ours. They helped us out at our big partner conference we had here in New York City back in May. Bruce Mosler is a big fan of hiring veterans, and I'm looking forward to everything that we'll be doing together. Thanks, Frank, for joining us, and congratulations on your Twilight Tour.
Thank you.
All right, next we got 540-226-7887.
Hey, that's me, Andy.
Hey, Des.
Hey.
You want to give us a brief introduction?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. Now, I'm Des Scott, former public relations manager for the Virginia Values Veterans V3 program, and PVA is doing such great work. The PAVE program have to be on the call today.
All right, thank you. And 718-630-4101. Who's this?
True. That's us. Can you hear us?
Yes. Who's this?
Yeah, this was Charles Williams, Robert Perkins, Rose Talona, and Wanda Mills. Workforce Development, DHR, at Fort Hamilton, New York.
Great.
You were asking for us earlier. Somehow you couldn't hear us. We kept trying to get through to you, but we're all here.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got you on the phone now, and thank you for joining us. Having the military sector involved in this is going to be a great asset as well.
Absolutely.
And finally, there's one more that's only listed as anonymous. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anyone. Is there anyone on the line that I didn't call? Okay. All right, good. Again, thanks for joining us, everyone. And as I mentioned in the beginning, this is an opportunity for me to bring together some private sector partners who are extremely important to me, some public sector partners, military sector partners, as well as other nonprofits, again, to engage in a kickoff meeting to best answer the question, how can we increase employment opportunities? And I will give a brief background on how we got here. One of the reasons that I was recruited into Paralyzed Veterans of America was because of a program that I ran in the Commonwealth of Virginia called the Virginia Values Veterans Program. You heard Des Scott mention that as the V3 program. I was the program manager for that. Governor McAuliffe's crown jewel initiative for getting veterans employed. And what we were able to do in that program back in Virginia was to develop a unique method for building bridges between the civilian sector and the military sector, as well as the veteran population. One of the ways that we did that was through engaging the employers directly with a education and training program. But before I go on, I've got two more people that just joined. Phone number 347-296-8024. Did you just join us?
Yeah, hi, that's Avi.
Hey, Avi. Thanks for dialing in. You want to give us a brief background on who you are?
Yeah, so I'm with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. We're the largest chamber both in New York City and New York State. We have a very active veteran committee here at the chamber that looks to provide services and connect various veteran organizations around the city and the state to each other.
Thanks, Avi. And there was another phone number that just joined, 347-452-9840.
Hey, how's it going? This is Chris from the Manhattan Vet Center.
Oh, hey, Chris. Do you want to give us a brief introduction, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Manhattan Vet Center program provides readjustment counseling services for veterans and families. And not only for counseling services, we also provide resources and information about their educational benefits and entitlements, VA services and entitlements, any resources out there through veteran service organizations, and any other services out there that are for veterans in the New York City area.
Okay, great. And we just had one more walk-in into the room. Not to put you on the spot, but you wanted to give us a brief introduction?
That's okay. It's Anita Moy-Pichardo from AIG. I'm executive recruiting and IT team lead at the company.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Sorry I'm late.
No problem. We're just getting started, actually. So now there might be one or two more that come in, but we'll go ahead and keep this going. I sent you the agenda prior to this. Hopefully it didn't get deleted when I inadvertently canceled the meeting. I went into panic mode when that happened. I can't believe that. For some reason, I hope no one from PVA is on the line right now. We still use an outdated email client system called GroupWise.
I cannot begin to understand that.
But nevertheless, I still use Outlook, and the conflict between the two, something ended up happening. But thanks for your flexibility. So the agenda you can see the agenda items on this handy-dandy little presentation that I have up here. And as we go into the overview, I do want this to be interactive. So I've left the participants on the phone call. I've left you unmuted. Everyone is unmuted. Feel free to mute yourself if you're worried about the dog barking or the we just had one more coming in. If you're worried about any noise in the background, but I will solicit feedback on what we're going to be doing. But I gave you a brief overview of what we're going to be doing, hopefully in the coming months, and it's centered around a 2-day event or events that are designed to work with both the employers and the veteran population. So very quickly, we'll go into the overview here, and the general overview. What we can say is building bridges. All right, this is how I see the overarching goal of what we're trying to do here: building bridges between the employer population and the veteran population being key. But besides those two, the employer and the veterans, we also want to make roadways between Department of Veteran Services, for example, all the things that you have, making veterans aware of everything that DVS can do. The New York City Veterans Alliance. Kristen Rouse just joined us. I'm sure there's no one on this call who doesn't know Kristen. So Kristen, thanks for your time. Building bridges between other service providers. Again, I don't see myself in competition with anyone. I see myself as a complement to other service providers that are around here. I'd like to keep it that way. If you see yourself as a competitor to me, whatever, I don't really care. But we do have, for example, Easter Seals, I think, is another service provider who does a lot what we do. But we're all in this for the same goal, and that's to help veterans get employed. So again, that's just kind of the overarching purpose here. But within these 2 days is 2 different. Oops. Sorry for going back and forth and making you nauseous. All right. Within these 2-day event, we'd like to have 2 distinct events with 2 distinct audiences. And the first one I mentioned in the introductory email is an employer training seminar. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a title guy. I'm not a bumper sticker guy. I don't have catchy phrases. I'm a details and a program systems guy. I'm not a PR person. That's why Dez is such a good friend of mine, because he's got those nice catchy titles. So employer training seminar is what you see on the front of stereo instructions, not on a bumper sticker. But at this employer training seminar, what we're aiming to do is to work with the employer population to enhance their cultural competency among the veteran population. And also, once they know what a veteran is and why a veteran is the way a veteran is, and how valuable they are to the civilian workforce, to educate and train them in best practices in recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans, and then finally to provide them with resources to connect better with the veteran population. The goal being, whether a company has an existing veteran recruitment program, like some do, or whether they've never had one, it's to expand proactive engagement with the military talent. There's a business case to be made for it, obviously, and that's what we want to get across. One thing that has been made abundantly clear through speaking with many, many employers over the time that I've been doing this is that veterans are not only, it's not just the patriotic thing to do, but it's the right business thing to do. And that's what we want to get across to our employers. And so a very brief overview of the event. We want to make sure that we're targeting HR personnel, hiring managers, and executives. And through this event, it could be as long as a day, it could be as short as 4 hours, depending on how in-depth we want to get. We want to, again, give them the business case, why hire veterans, and more importantly, especially for HR folks, how to build that business case. Because a lot of times it is the HR personnel that are going to the executives and saying, we need this in writing. Here's the business case for hiring veterans. This is how we're going to implement a veteran hiring program or veteran training and retention program. Educate them on best practices in recruiting, hiring, and retaining veterans. And we got folks like AIG here, and JP Morgan Chase is a good partner, Cushman Wakefield. We got people that have been doing this for years who can tell people, other businesses in the community, what's been working best for them. Yes, sir.
Hi, this is Giovanni. I just have a quick question, because I hear from all these companies that they have veteran hiring practices, and we hire veterans, we hire veterans, we hire veterans. Can you give me any statistics on how many veterans you've hired? Every one of them say no. with the exception of the MTA and FDNY and certain one of those public entities. They say a lot, but they can't prove it. How can we verify that they're doing what they say they're doing?
Short of auditing them? I mean
do we have to give them a grading score like the city does the food vendors? It's like, if we're not getting in, I could sit there and I say, I hire 100 veterans a day.
Yeah.
But I don't have to prove it to you.
Now, if you're a federal contractor, then that's one thing. If you're involved in federal contracts at all, then you're responsible to the Office of Federal Contract Compliance, OFCCP, and you do have to report those sorts of numbers. As far as other businesses, I mean, I think I've got a solid argument to make that you should hire veterans, but if they don't, I mean, is it within, do I even want to have the power to hold them accountable for that? I don't know. I don't think so.
If they say they do, and they don't, then yeah, we should hold them accountable.
But, and you probably got a point. At this point, I'm not sure what the correct way is to do that, especially, I'm coming from the government sector in Virginia where I did have that semi-authority, but as a nonprofit representative, I certainly don't. If that's something that, and I've talked with DVS in the past about developing a certification and a certification program for businesses that complete training, they're able to make a commitment to hire veterans. Then they have a reporting process that goes back and forth between the city that says, yes, here's how many veterans that we've hired, here was our goal, here's how many we've hired to date, and they would keep track of them. But I think there are companies that do keep track of it. I mean, AIG and Memorial Sloan, you've got to have those numbers at your fingertips, right?
We do. We don't publicize it because that's something that those are...
The internal personnel matters,
as well. And not all employees, you have to self-identify, right? And maybe some veterans may choose not to self-identify as a veteran, and that's beyond our control, right? That has to be a choice. So we do have those numbers. Yes.
Sure. How many veterans did you hire last year?
In one location, I can tell you there was just in Fort Worth alone was more than 50.
Wow.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah. So that's and we break it down by location.
Great.
We just, we don't call it a program necessarily, right? We're trying to still transform the company.
And it could be, Giovanni, that maybe the people that you're hearing from are the public relations people who don't have those numbers at their fingertips. But if you talk to HR, they're the ones that are pulling up the data and analyzing things, how they can magnify their diversity and inclusion tactics and that sort of stuff.
And again, those numbers may not be so accurate, right? So we try to be careful with sharing those numbers because it likely is more, but that's just what we know.
Yeah. So step one is getting companies proactive and engaged, and getting them excited about hiring veterans as a benefit to their bottom line. One other thing, I'm talking with the PVA leadership back in Washington, D.C. One of the things that they want to add to this, and they're behind this 100%, by the way. PVA being a national organization, very well-established organization, headquartered in Washington, D.C. They're behind me 100%. One of the things that they suggested is, besides having just an employer training seminar, why not afterwards have a cocktail reception as well? I said, yeah. You're not going to get an argument from me. But PVA does events well. They do events very well. We just held our 10th annual Paralyzed Veterans Golf Open down in Loudoun County, Virginia. It was amazing, the level of professionalism that event had. So we've got some good event planners behind us, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Any questions on the employer training seminar and what we hope to accomplish? Anyone on the phone? Have any questions about what this day would consist of or could consist of, would make it better? I forgot to mention right off the bat, I'm new here in New York City. I knew what worked in Virginia, but I'm not so arrogant to assume that what worked in Virginia will work in New York City. And it's exactly why I'm so appreciative of you all being here, because you're going to keep me grounded and not let me fall on my face, hopefully. So feel free to give your thoughts on what you think would add value to such an event.
the event would be held here in New York City?
We're going to get into that. We don't know yet. It would be, yes, in New York City, somewhere in New York City, in the 5 boroughs.
So I think including, an effort to gather as many veterans as each of our employers to attend this event, to do a presentation as well. There's an event, is Kyler on?
Kyler, no.
No, he's not on the phone? Okay. Yeah, so it was the Lone Star event. It was a Lone Star event in Houston, and what we are planning to do is have 2 senior IT execs. So our focus area would be IT for our veterans currently, and I can only speak for IT because that's what I oversee in HR. And what we did was we assigned 2 to 3 executives that are going to attend an event to talk about their ideas and their ideas for a program and it's a dinner.
Okay, a dinner, huh?
Yeah.
So we could carry the conversation over into the cocktail hour / dinner in the evening if that was, and that would mean that if that were the case, that would mean we wouldn't need to start at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is probably a bad time to start anywhere in New York City.
Yeah.
But if we had it at 11 and then it bled over into the evening, it wouldn't be such a long day, perhaps. But I think that's a good idea. And one thing I meant to mention is that even though this is being held in New York City, I'm not opposed to inviting people from all over the United States. Again, Paralyzed Veterans of America has relationships with employers and companies all over the United States. And it might be good to see other companies that are coming from Virginia, for example, how New York City is growing their veteran programs with DVS at the helm and the New York City Veterans Alliance and all the great people coming together to enhance opportunities. So that'd be, there's plenty to draw from here in New York City, but I'm not opposed to reaching outside the boroughs or the state either to try and get them here.
Is there a specific area of function that we're focusing on? I'm thinking IT, but I'm sure there's other areas that in other industries or functions.
The idea is to keep it as general as possible. With some examples, obviously, we want to say, okay, and manufacturing is a big one, surprisingly, how veterans fit into the manufacturing industry. Even though maybe there's not so much manufacturing here in New York City, but maybe companies that are outside in Long Island or in Jersey, they could apply those principles as well. But tech's always one that we get into. I'd like to include something about finance. But program management's always a good one. Project management's a good one as well.
Finance, that's, you're bringing the guys from VOWs. I mean, that's all they...
Yeah, and Chris Perkins was scheduled to be here, and I'll get into that in a second because there was a major conflict. He called me up as soon as I sent the email. It's like, we got a problem. But before we get to that, I want to move on just so we don't spend too much time in the weeds. All right. So the second day after the networking reception and the dinner and everything would be a military workforce recruiting day. I'm going to show you how this works a little bit later on, so I don't want to get too detailed into it right now. But again, the purpose of this is to provide direct interaction between every employer and every military candidate. It is not a job fair. And through that, we hope to have a robust exchange of cultural expertise. Those people in the corporate world will learn about the veteran culture and how that can be used in their workforce. At the same time, the veteran candidates will learn about the corporate culture in an environment that is very intimate and very interactive. And again, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're providing a venue that will match the supply side of the equation with the employer's demand side of the equation. Again, it is not a job fair. A job fair is when you've got a room full of companies that have their booths set up and their branding material out and their plush toys that they're giving out to everyone, and all they're doing is waiting for people to come to them. In this type of event, what we do, and I'll show you a video on how it works later on, is we do provide advanced preparation both for the employers and for the job seekers. We provide job openings for the candidates and encourage them to research them and apply for them and develop an application for them. But we also give background information to the employers prior to the event itself as well, providing screened resumes ahead of time. So actually the employers could go to such an event and know exactly who they want to talk to, or have a priority list of who they want to talk to. I kind of liken it to a baseball draft. And I've even had employers call up a candidate before the event and give them the job before the event even happened because they found the right person. And I'm not opposed to that. But anyway, in this type of event, instead of the job seeker going around the room, we have tables of veterans, usually about 6 or 7 veterans at a table, and the employer will rotate at timed intervals from table to table to table to table until they've talked with every single candidate. And there's someone up at the front monitoring the clock and telling the employer to stop their conversations and go to the next table. And it's kind of like speed dating, if you can think of that analogy. But the feedback, I did this in Virginia probably 10 or 11 times, and it just got better and better and better and better and better. The feedback was 99.999% positive, and the really telling statistic, though, was that 4 out of 5 candidates walked away with a positive lead toward employment, instead of the traditional 25% that you see at a job fair. So that's kind of the overview of that, and I've got the SOP, I've got everything. This is my model that I've been developing over the past 6 or 7 years, but I know it can always get better. And please don't take anything that I'm saying now as the end-all and be-all. I'm always willing to get better, again, based on you all's expertise in this area, and I hope you are willing to provide me with any kind of insight on that. Any questions on that event?
Have you ever heard of Edge for Vets? Mm-hmm. They have a variety of events, and they do a lot of having some of the executives there in the rooms, and some of it is great, love it, but 9 out of 10 times they always hit them with the change your resume, change your LinkedIn profile. Guggenheim Partners had an event where we went through the whole LinkedIn thing, and they were able to provide headshots. So they were giving pictures. So come in your Sunday best, make sure you're nice and prepped, and we can do headshots for you. And their way of running around, I thought, was very advantageous. I can get you in contact with the guy that does that, so you can go through that whole agenda. It's I like it, but like anything else, everything can use some kind of improvement.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Do you usually marry these two different events at the same time?
I don't.
Okay.
Normally they're not the day after each other, but we're hoping, and PVA and PAVE are hoping to do something big here that will not just be of value to the employers and the candidates, but kind of help brand enhancement for all of our partners involved as well, so we can get media attention and that sort of thing as well.
Yeah. So then I guess the follow-up question to that is, what's the buy-in strategy to make sure that employers are not only receiving the training from the military cultural competency perspective, but are also showing up to the second day, or vice versa, depending on which one they feel is more?
Yeah, it's actually going to be easier to fill this event up with employers, because we only want 12 to 15. You know, we want as many as we can get the day prior. So it's going to be a little bit more of a filtering process for this one. So what we've done in the past is we, number one, required the company to have open positions at the time of the event. They're not hiring, they're just using it as a PR event. Thank you, but we want to get veterans jobs. So they've got to have open positions. We also want to ensure that there's kind of a wide variety of industries. It's not just all one sector and every employer is competing with the other as far as their industry sector is concerned. So healthcare, finance, real estate, advertising.
Are we doing like bank tellers and real estate agents and life insurance agents?
No,
those guys are always hiring.
Yeah. And so, yeah, some of them will be, obviously, because those are the high turnover positions that are always going to, and if someone wants to be a teller, who am I to stop them, right? But, a lot of these companies also have project management positions as well. But if they're familiar with the finance industry, then they might fit in better with a PM position in finance. But we do try to encourage the companies to have not only a wide variety of industries, but a wide variety of jobs available as well. Yes?
So just two quick points, and I think we've talked about this, but the city government is the largest employer in the city, and it's also the largest employer of veterans. I think you're onto that, and I'm glad that Oz is in the room to represent city employment and potential there. I would also be glad to talk with you about partnering to promote this within the veterans community with the outreach that we have, and then also we've also talked about a potential venue in Chelsea that is I welcome you to talk with us about hosting it there.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that back up, Christian. I appreciate that. And you'll see as we get to the end of this is that I'm going to be leveraging as much as I can to get that outreach. Because we all know veterans are an elusive bunch. So we're going to need to do whatever we can to start advertising this early and often.
Is this open to military spouses or caregivers as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All right. No, sorry. Go ahead.
You mentioned outreach being such a big part of this. Do you have a time frame you want to make this happen?
Excuse me?
Is there a time frame that you want to make this happen? This happen? It's not fall next year.
Yep. All right, so where are we going to have it? And I'll get to the date and location. One of the things that was brought up, and Kristen just mentioned that there is a venue out in Chelsea, and I've been to that, and it certainly serves the purpose. But Avi, who's on the call as well, out of the Brooklyn Chamber, has also mentioned some venues. What I'd like to see is, what's going to be the best, what's going to be the easiest to get to for the veterans? Are we going to attract, if they're coming from Long Island, are they going to want to come all the way to Manhattan? Or if they're coming from the Bronx, are they going to want to go all the way to Brooklyn? I don't know. Again, this is where my expertise is way down on the floor, and you all know way better than I do. But keep in mind, we don't have to have each event in the same locality either. We could have the employer training seminar in Manhattan and the veterans event in Queens or whatever. Even Staten Island, it doesn't matter to me. And I'm not asking for it to solidify this now either. The location is easier than date, in my opinion. So think about that. And sorry, I did all the graphics of where we can have it. But think about where we can have it. Kristen, thank you for the offer. Avi, I know you've offered, you have potential locations as well. And I'm sure each of you in your network have certain locations that you can be thinking of. So just kind of keep that in mind. I actually have built a Google group that we can communicate with and then sort of share our ideas as well. And maybe if there's a corporate sponsor that would be willing to have a location at their fancy headquarters, that would be nice too. And I'm not asking now. Don't get me wrong. Okay, so the big thing though is the date, and I know, and I didn't want to send it out via email because I was already being so confusing with my cancellations and everything. But again, Chris Perkins gave me a call and said, "Hey, man, this is just such bad timing. We were just about to send the save the date out for our annual Veterans on Wall Street Symposium on November 7th. That's the same day that I sent out for these two events. Well, I'm the new guy, and I got no problem moving mine because Chris and Vals have been doing this for I think, several years, and I want them as a partner, and I'm grateful for their partnership thus far. Chris helped me engage in a very, very good panel discussion at our partner conference. And so I told Chris, and I told our PVA leadership in D.C., yes, we can move it. And so what I'd like to suggest here is putting it a little bit farther away from November 7th than just a week or two. While it would be nice to have it around Veterans Day, it doesn't need to be around Veterans Day. So December, in my experience, has always been a bad month for events. No one's thinking about events, they're thinking about shopping and Christmas and going away and that sort of thing. January traditionally has been a fairly good month for events, in my opinion, and February also. But again, that's the Virginian in me, I don't know. So what are y'all's thoughts on what would be the best day for a two-day, keep in mind, a two-day event here in New York City? And I know it snows up here too, so I got to keep that in mind.
I agree with you on December, and also just as somebody who has seen all of the events happening every November, November is bonkers.
Yeah.
And I think it would take a lot of careful planning to compete with all of the events that are going on in November, and we don't have a lot on the calendar yet that we've seen for November. It's possible if you do it right, you're an organization with national standing and with a big audience, but I would say if you're going to do November, do it now.
Okay.
But I think January and February are slow months, but that means you're not competing.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to come in and be like, I'm the new guy in town. I'm going to try and do something that everyone else is, or at least how it's perceived. I mean, I know we've got unique qualities here, but I think January, February, either of those months. And I know, Susan, that kind of throws off kilter, kind of what we had planned with that veteran training group.
Right. We're flexible. Our commitment is to put in a workshop a week or so before.
Yeah. And we could do another one. We could do that one and then do another one in January too.
Absolutely.
So I did want to make sure I brought that up with you.
That's not an issue.
Okay. Good. My preference coming into this was January 17th and 18th. Don't ask me why. It's not the 24th and 25th, which is my son's birthday. I can't do that day or my wife would not be happy. But 17th and 18th is my preference, just looking at that. Is there anyone that knows of anything in the future that would be a huge problem? Like I said, date is harder to pin down than location. Once we have a date, we can get a location. There's plenty of them around here in New York City from what I understand.
From the Intrepid to, Ernst & Young corporate office.
Yeah. All right, that's my proposal, 17th and 18th. Is everyone good with that?
Yeah, I can tell you that nobody has submitted events to our calendar yet for January, and so you're ahead of the curve.
Perfect. Let's lock that in then. Get that saved on the calendar too. So
let everyone else plan around you.
There we go. Awesome. That works great. Anyone on the phone have anything to add to that? Looking especially at Fort Hamilton, I don't know what y'all's schedule is like, if that lines up or has any kind of conflicts that you're aware of.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Bob Perkins, the DHR. No, I don't think we have a problem with that at all. But we were also looking at location. Fort Hamilton's also an option as well, that it could be held. A military installation. A lot of people don't even know about this place. And we have a community club here that's the actual original fort, so it's kind of nice. There's a little museum and all that good stuff. I was also looking at, have you talked to the mayor's office about this?
We got Oz is here from DBS.
But what about with MOVA, with Lori Sutton? She's retired.
Yeah, her representative is here.
You have a question for me, sir?
Well, no, I was just curious if anybody had talked to MOVA or get them involved, the Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs, General retired Lori Sutton.
So, sir, the Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs no longer exists. It's transitioned to an independent agency. It's the New York City Department of Veteran Services. We're still overseen by Commissioner Sutton, and yes, I am in the room, and we're currently talking about this proposal for events now. I don't believe you've spoken to Jamal about this before, right?
Yeah, I've briefed him on the concept.
So we are involved. If your question is whether or not the former MOVA is involved, yes, we are.
Okay, I was just wondering because you guys have a lot of outreach. As well, we do also because I have my retirement services officer here who can reach the additional retiree population throughout New York City.
It's very good.
And we also can reach transitioning soldiers throughout the Army, which is throughout the world, through our resources as well. So if they're getting ready to get out or something to that effect or are already out, we can get that message out as well.
Right. Thanks for that offer, Rob. I really appreciate that. I'm actually have a Fort Hamilton visit scheduled here pretty soon. I'd like to meet with you and check out the location. I saw Colonel Sikola yesterday, but would like to go out there here sometime soon. I'll get with you afterwards. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. All right. So we've got a date. We have plenty of locations that we could choose from. Again, we can pin that down later on. But one of the things that's extremely important to me is defining what success looks like. Anytime we have a project of any kind of scale, I want to make sure that I know from the get-go what success looks like. And to me, as a philosophical principle, success equals value. That means value to my organization, that means value to my partners, that means value to the attendees, that means a win-win-win-win-win situation. That's what I like to see. That's a successful event to me. But we can differentiate, and this is my principles that I'm operating by, is that we can distinguish between quantitative success and qualitative success. Whereas quantitative success would be obviously any kind of metrics that we establish, goals that we set, goals that we reach, and the amount of money spent under budget, or the amount of profit that we make, or whatever it is. Again, speaking generally here, not about these events in particular. And then you can measure customer satisfaction quantitatively through customer surveys and that sort of thing. And as well as qualitative success, again, success looks like to me if there's momentum established as a result of the project or as a result of an event. The brand is enhanced not only for the lead representative but also for all the partners involved. And then again, qualitative customer satisfaction. And you can see, again, this is me, at the intersection of quantitative success and qualitative success, you've got customer satisfaction right there in the middle. And that is why in any kind of project that I get involved in, that's always my goal, is to keep the customer satisfied. And the customer can be defined a number of different ways, not just your traditional buyer and seller agreement, but I tend to think of customers in a very broad concept. So for our events, in particular, what I'd like to see, obviously a huge quantitative success metric for these events is turnout. And we talked about outreach, getting employers to the employer training seminar. The more we get, the better, right? The more veterans that we have register for the recruiting day, the better. We're only going to allow 70 to 100, depending on the venue size that we have. But the more that we have that register for the event or apply for the event, the better. So turnout is huge. Another event success metric would be the expanded commitment to hire veterans. Whether we've got a executive from Memorial Sloan that comes in and says, "Wow, I never thought of that. We need to get more veterans. I'm going to hire more." That's a huge success metric right there. Or AIG or whoever, any company that's involved, or the City of New York. Another one would be veterans with positive leads for employment as they engage with the companies. These are all things that I like to keep in mind on defining success for these particular events. Community awareness. New York City is aware of this partnership and this type of event going on, and they're supportive of it and want to see more of it. That would be a good measure of success as well, sort of more on the qualitative side though. Media coverage, as long as it's positive, is always a good thing as well. And then, of course, customer satisfaction. Is there anything that you all would like to see on these events in particular that could be a meaningful measure of success? I don't mean to dominate the conversation. I really don't.
I think turnout from, not just in numbers, but also representing, across the different boroughs, having spouses as well as the veteran or military member, having, different age categories, different, background, like having diversity in the different sense.
We want to put all our eggs in one basket type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that would be sort of a more nuanced way to define turnout.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Thanks, Kristen.
Also, like enlisted and officer experience as well, and placement of enlisted members for their skills in management as well as officers. Sure. Because there's a stereotype out there that that officers are in all these job programs and they're generally the ones who have less of an issue getting hired. It's getting employers to recognize the executive and management experience of enlisted troops.
Yeah, good point.
And selling that on a resume as well as the nice college degree and the easily understandable positions that the officers have.
Perfect, thanks. Did I hear someone on the phone try to pipe up?
And it's Des.
Hey, Des.
It should be easier to get you on the Today Show for this event. Let's see if we can work on that.
I'll do it. I will do it.
Listen, NBC has had a couple of events with WWE stars or other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Des knows me. I may not be able to come up with a bumper sticker slogan, but you get me in front of a camera, and I can talk a pretty good game. All right, so we talked about customer satisfaction. Again, I've got 3 separate customers here that I want to talk about: employers, veteran job seekers, veteran spouses and caregivers, and the community as a whole. And this is how I see defining success for I want to see my customers satisfied in the employer community by showing them how they can increase profit by hiring good talent, showing them how they can build a more efficient and a more productive workforce by hiring good veteran talent, show them that they can have a sustainable access to a pipeline, not just hire one vet and done, but how they have the resources to sustain that pipeline so they can keep their business growing. To show them how, by hiring veterans, they are engaged in an effort of community of goodwill. They're going to enhance their brand that way as well. And through all of this, they in turn will be able to increase their customer satisfaction as well. Does that make sense to everyone? Any questions on that? I'm trying to move quickly because I think I'm already over where I was hoping to be. For the job seeker, again, what I would hope they would get out of this is an expanded network of opportunity providers, not just employers, but understanding who DVS is, who the New York City Veteran Alliance is, who CTER is, who Molly is, and her own network of providers, the New York State Veteran Chamber of Commerce, and all of these people, not just jobs, but opportunity providers. Being aware of them and building a network off of it. To give them confidence going into the workforce and developing their own credentials. Knowing that employers are out there that want to capitalize on them gives veterans a huge level of confidence. And when they see that firsthand, they're more eager to go out and enhance their own skills so they can be more contributive to the civilian workforce. Obviously, a great measure of success would be a new job. I never make any promises at these types of events, but that would be a huge measure of success for any veteran that's looking for one. And customer satisfaction. This is where I tell the veterans, when I communicate with them, we have conference calls and email correspondence prior to these events, and I am constantly telling them, when you are applying for a job and you are interviewing for a job, that employer is your customer. You are trying to sell your experience and your expertise to that employer who is going to buy it from you. And if you can't provide customer satisfaction, they are less likely to give you that employment opportunity. It's about the impression that they make at these events. It's about how they present their skills, about how they brand themselves, their personality, how they make their skills relevant to their customer, the employer. And so all of that goes into, if these veteran job seekers can satisfy their customer, the employer, great. That's what I want to see as well. Does that make sense? Again, I have a kind of a nuanced view of customers and satisfaction, but it seems to resonate with the veterans when I tell them that. All right, finally, the community as a whole, macro scale. If this gains momentum, and we do this right, the community will be able to retain good workers and good citizens, productive workers, productive citizens. We will be able to attract new good workers and productive workers and new productive citizens into the 5 boroughs. Which in turn creates this atmosphere of goodwill. Again, we have New York City, it could be branded as the most veteran-friendly city in the United States, or whatever. Create some sort of slogan that enhances the atmosphere of goodwill toward the veteran community. It provides regional influence if we do this right. Other regions around the state or around the Northeast or even around the United States look at New York City and say, hey, they're doing something. We need to imitate that. And it gives you leverage as an influencer over various parts of the United States. And all of this ultimately will lead to economic stimulation and economic development. Again, the better workforce you have, the more productive your community is going to be. I've been involved in workforce development for the past 7 years, talked with hundreds of companies, some looking to expand, some looking to relocate into different locations. Besides all the tax breaks, those are great, but the number one question that they ask is, what kind of workforce do you have? And if a community, if a state, if a region does not have a productive workforce, they're not going to relocate. They're not going to expand. All right. To illustrate this, if you'll indulge me for a brief 5-6 minutes, I promised that I wouldn't spend too much time talking about what I did in Virginia and blah, 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 all that. But again, if you'll indulge me, I just want to show you in video what these events can look like as maybe a starting point. Obviously not the end-all and be-all, because I want it to be better than we've done in the past. But this will give you an idea of maybe what an event, the employer training seminar could look like, as well as the Veterans Recruiting Day could look like. And I'm not connected to audio, I just realized.
Is that VGA? Oh no, that's not going to work.
Is there a, where's the IT guy?
Or put closed captions on?
If I did close captions.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
I didn't even think of the, where's my,
And I don't have a cable.
Des, you like that picture?
Yep.
Actually, I'm on HDMI, so.
No, it's a VGA.
Oh, that's right, it's not.
What's the name?
Whoa.
Man, look at this.
It might work. I cannot guarantee it.
Only the type of guy who walks around with cords.
That's awesome.
It's an IT thing.
Right. Right in the headphone jack, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Anything?
Make sure the playback is set to it. Yeah.
Well, that's embarrassing.
You know what the volume control is on the home screen? Make sure it's set to the speaker.
Volume's all the way up.
If you play it there, it'll probably work. It's not this here. Back devices.
Oh, there we go.
There's the video.
It's over on the extended screen.
Oh, so you have to play in the other one. Sorry.
Well, I'll send these links out to y'all. I'll send the videos out to you. I had.
Do you want to try and send it to me and I can put it on my iPad so leave somebody in the room?
Well, I hate to do that to our phone customers. But I can definitely, and yeah, I'll definitely send out the links to the videos. You can see for yourself how it works.
You send out the presentation?
But that,
You might send it.
I will send the entire presentation, the recorded one, as well as the Prezi itself. So let me, I apologize. I was having technical issues right before the 1 o'clock deadline, and I thought I saw them all and completely forgot about the audio. But, and Des is on the phone. He was here for all this. We worked with a company called Hiring America, which is actually headquartered here in New York City. And they did 2 20-minute segments on the work that Virginia was doing in connecting employers and veterans. And it was broadcast to over 3 million people in over 2 different weeks. And very grateful to them for their level of professionalism. They're the ones that developed the second video. Again, I'll send it out to everyone so you can watch it. You can get an idea of what the Workforce Recruiting Day looks like. All right, but now I'm just going to move on into the execution overview. How do we reach? We talked about how do we define success? Again, very broadly, I just want to give my concept of how we can achieve that success once it's defined. What's important to me in reaching success is having a very clear and concise mission. And to me, that has always been increasing employment opportunities for veterans. To me, it's not about creating jobs. That's not my job. That's what employers do through their capital investment and their cost-benefit analysis on a number of things. But if I can increase the number of opportunities that veterans have available to them, then that's a decision between the employer and the veteran. And once the employer sees it's a good fit, they'd be more likely to hire that veteran. I always like to have a value message. You know, what's in it for me? That's what the WIFM stands for. Anyone in the military knows what a WIFM is. And the value message, again, going back to all of the different customer bases that we have. What's in it for the employer? What's in it for the veteran? What's in it for the community? And what's in it for us as a partner, as a partnership? Achievable goals. It's nice to be able to shoot for the moon, but it's also better, I'll just say it, better to have goals that are reasonable and achievable based on our current capacity. I like to have cohesive support and buy-in. Everyone's kind of on the same page, whether they be in the public sector, the private sector, other nonprofits, other service providers, and finally, media. The media is not inferring something different than we're implying. Nothing drives me more crazy than that. When you say something to a reporter and they write something down, something completely different. You know, we want to make sure our message is coming across so it can't be inferred, received differently than it's implied or given. A lot of that involves professional communication and ongoing communication to make sure we're keeping in line with this clear and concise mission and all of the other things that are up there, and ongoing collaboration, not just once a quarter get together and say how's everything going, but constant communication, not every day, not every hour, nothing like that, but frequent enough to where we're able to make progress toward our goals. So what we need, what PBA needs, what I need, again, is subject matter experts, your expertise here in the community, your expertise in your given area, whether it be with employer resources, whether it be with cultural competency, whether it be as a private sector expert in HR, or a business network in the chamber, or working with military personnel on Fort Hamilton. The expertise that I don't have is huge. So I'm humble enough to recognize that. I need network extension. We've got some great partners here that have been around a long time that have very wide networks, and that will help gain the awareness of this program and gain the outreach, help us achieve our metrics on that. And that being said, outreach to employers, outreach to veterans. We've talked about this. Many of you have already said, yes, I've got networks, I can help out. That's awesome. So I'm very gratified to hear that people are already stepping up and saying, I believe in this and I want to help you out. I want to get the word out about it. So thank you in advance to that. Volunteers, maybe as we get closer to the event and we actually need boots on the ground, maybe your organization would be willing to provide a couple people that can help with registration or help shuffle the employers along as they try to wrap up their conversations, or anything. And you never know. It's not usually a very labor-intensive event. And again, PBA does have an outstanding event planning staff, but it's always nice to volunteer and get involved as well from the partner perspective. So, achieving success, is there anything that I missed here? I mean, something blatantly obvious? Obviously we need a place, right? We need a place to have it.
One of the discussions we had yesterday was, can any of these things be done on the weekend?
Yeah, that's right.
Because
Yeah.
some of the guys they're stuck in dead-end messenger jobs to eat, and they can't get away in a suit for obvious reasons. So is there any other way to have some kind of meetup group after, before, during, where it's on the weekends, where guys can actually get away in bulk?
I think it's a legitimate question, but the follow-up question to that is, are there going to be people that are willing to stick around on the weekend or spend their weekend?
You got one. You got me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, among the job seeker community.
Oh, the job seeker. Okay.
Yeah. This is my job. I have to do it. No? But yeah, among the job seeker community, it's always been kind of, and again, this is my previous experience, not having anything to do with here, but it's always been kind of understood that the weekends would attract a smaller crowd than a weekday does. Kristen?
I think if you can present and message the value, and that this is something that either, its difference is, has greater value than maybe other things they've been to, I think you can get the turnout on the weekend, and the venue that I'm suggesting, we could make a weekend event happen, and it might even be easier on a weekend. So I think there's a lot of potential, but it will take sort of an amped up messaging and really showing the value that PVA provides, and you have that. You're showing us the messaging here. It's just making sure that is getting disseminated, because I think you can bring in, 30 to 50 people.
From the employer community, is that let's say, employer training seminar on Friday, right? Because you're not going to go to an employer training seminar on Saturday, I don't think, at corporate expense. And these don't cost anything, by the way. I forgot to mention that. But would having it on weekend be an obstacle for employers?
I think in general, and I'm thinking, banks, they have these things called Super Saturdays, and I'm thinking if we as an organization treated veterans recruiting the same way we treat campus recruiting. Oh, okay. Right. So
it's a great point.
So why not? Right, but like you said, it's going to be about the messaging.
Yeah, that's. I'm sorry to interrupt. That's a great point, because one of the target populations that, pardon me for abandoning your whole diversity thing, but when we're looking at the workforce age veterans, typically they're in the college community here in New York City, right? Most of the younger veterans are centered around the college campuses. And so having it on a weekday might prove to be an obstacle for them if they've got class and aren't able to get away. And to your point, treating it like
it's a campus recruiting effort. I mean, it depends. It would have to be organized exactly like a campus recruiting event, which would mean that we know exactly who we're interviewing in terms of coming in. It depends on how we can organize it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the only way to get people to come in and be a part of the interviewing process. And these would be for actual jobs.
Right.
Right. So that's a plus on both ends.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're just getting to know you on the first day, right? It would be that we already know who you are. We would already have your resume, and we know what job you're applying for.
Yeah.
So if it's, the difference is that in campus recruiting, they're recruiting for one kind of job, which is you're either coming in as an analyst or you're coming in as an associate from business school. So they're recruiting in bulk for these entry-level positions or for MBAs with a couple more years of experience. And that's different. So I think if they're coming in for different types of jobs, it might get really confusing for sure. But maybe there's a way to get around it.
If you go back to the messaging thing, it would require some diligent communication, even a clear and concise message, not straying from that message and all of that. But I think it is possible. With all that being said, I'm definitely not opposed to having it on the weekend, whereas yesterday I was kind of a little bit hesitant.
I just want to throw a tiny wrench in there, which is that if you're going to do it on the weekend, you need to be highly cognizant of location because of the way that the MTA is on the weekend. Like
No.
Like if you can't actually get there because of weekend trains, it's going to be a problem.
Okay.
So it needs
Good
to be
point.
a very accessible location.
Very centralized.
And then the second thing I'll say is that weekend crowd, I think you need to look at who your employers are and what those open positions are that you're hiring for, and that'll make it a little easier to decide weekend versus
Okay.
middle of the day crowd. That period of time is actually during winter break for most colleges.
Is it?
So you'll be accessible to students, but people who work in like service industry jobs or start like night shift with security guards and things of that nature, kind of a more working class background, might not be able to make it on a weekend.
Okay. So if we were to have it on a weekend, what would be the ideal time frame? Not the 10th and 11th of November, but
I'm leaning toward more, second or third week in December. That's me. It's
the end of the semester? Is that the...
No?
Depends on where you are, but usually classes will end by the 22nd will be like end of finals, but people are like going out of town to see family.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a winter session, it's going to start right after Christmas. So I would say January timeframe
Still
would
makes
probably
sense.
also be good.
So maybe the 26th and 27th? Or 19th and 20th? So again, nothing's... I don't have this locked in, so don't put it up on the webpage yet. But again, I think it's wise advice to see what give us a couple weeks, couple months maybe, or no, I don't want to wait that long, but a couple weeks so we can gauge interest from the employer community. Who are we going to have that might help us better determine 16th and 17th versus 19th and 20th. So let me write that down. What did I have? 17th and 18th versus 19th and 20th. Okay. So, all right. Did I hear a ding earlier?
On the phone, yeah.
Oh, it was on the phone. Okay, I thought it was my computer. Too bad.
Yeah, you probably plug it into the TV. That should work.
All right. So finally, we get into the capacities for all of these execution measures, and I kind of briefly touched on this at the beginning, but this is PAVE and PVA being a national veteran service organization that puts on events all the time. We do have certain capacities that can definitely make this a big and professional event. We do have a lot of experience with event coordination and registration and the website and all of that sort of stuff. We do have a national network of vocational rehabilitation managers that are master's level resume screeners and can work with the veterans on their resumes to help fine tune them. I always tell veterans the only resume that matters is the one that the employer sees, not the general one. And they need to tailor their resume for each employer, but it is good to have a general one as well. So the voc rehab counselors would be able to work with the veterans to help do resume screening and case management. We do have workforce development expertise on hand. We do have some outreach capabilities, but again, like I said, New York City is a very new space for PVA and especially for the PAVE program, so it's very limited. We do have some funding. We have some corporate sponsors that have already signed on, and we have a couple more that are signing on, I believe, at some point, hopefully in the future. And we do have the capacity to analyze data and analyze all the metrics and all that sort of stuff. So there are things that we can do within PVA, and I don't want to, because this is my full-time job, this is what I'm supposed to do. I assume a lot of that burden. And I don't want to ask people to do things that they're not comfortable doing, but there are certain capacities that are unfilled to put on this event, in my opinion, that would make it successful. We already talked about outreach ad nauseum. That's definitely a big one from my perspective. We need to do as much outreach as we can, starting early, starting often. Talked about the space here in New York City, the market analysis. I could have the greatest idea in the world, but if it's not going to work with the current market, if there's just not the demand for it, it's a meaningless idea, in my opinion. So again, you've already helped me out immensely just in this short meeting. with the market space here, the market analysis, and I would appreciate your continued slapping me in the face and say, no, that doesn't work here. I think Giovanni will get pleasure in that.
I got you.
SME trainers and keynote speakers. I've taught these subjects myself several times, but no one wants to get up and listen to the same guy talk over and over and over again. We've got SMEs that know this stuff. You know, cultural competency. We've got best practice people that are out there from the private sector. We've got Veterans on Wall Street. We've got a number of different organizations that can help out with the best practices. So, I may be looking, and maybe we can talk through a Google group and maybe talk offline. I've got a subject that I think fits in perfectly with this employer training seminar, or I've got an idea that works perfectly to help the veterans connect better with the employer and all that. So your subject matter expertise, it would be very beneficial in that regard. Keynote speakers as well. What kind of people do employers want to hear? What kind of keynote speaker does a veteran want to hear? If you saw the videos, you would have seen that Governor McAuliffe spoke at both of them. The employer training seminar and the veteran recruiting day. Who's around here? Who would mean a lot? You guys would know better. What's that? Media personalities.
Yeah, New York is very media focused, and you can draw a larger audience and interest and get on the map with somebody who's recognizable.
Great.
What's the guy's name? Vince from NBC? He's one of the TV producers. I'm going to have to get you that information.
Okay. So yeah, keep that in mind as well. Who would be a good broadcaster of not only the message that we have to the audience, but will make it resonate. I agree. I think media would be perfect. That also gets us a foot in the door to have coverage there as well. So it's kind of a win-win in that regard. Obviously, having Lori Sutton support would be very beneficial as well. So don't be surprised if I reach out to Jamal asking her to save the date to provide her remarks as well. So again, keep that in mind. And from the private sector, one thing that we found, again, if you have seen the video, we had the CIO from Capital One, we had the CEO from Booz Allen Hamilton, we had CEOs from Northrop Grumman, big companies at these types of events that HR folks and lower level executives like to rub elbows with, right? And it kind of attracts them into that venue. So both from the veteran side and the corporate side, think of the best sort of keynote speaker that we could have at these types of events. Media PR, thanks Kristen, you segued perfectly right into that. The more PR, again, positive PR that we can get for this, the better. Advocacy from the private sector, it means a lot when AIG or Memorial Sloan or Cushman & Wakefield or Veterans on Wall Street looks at this and said, I'm going to put my seal of approval on this. That tells other private sector members that, okay, this person's behind it, it's got to be legit, let me get involved in it too. TD Ameritrade would be a great one. Again, I already talked about volunteers, and my head fundraiser it would probably bite my head off if I didn't put more funding. So, but again, funding is always welcome, but just understand that it's we do have some to put this on. I'll just leave it at that. I'm going to have to delete that part of the recording. All right. Any questions on the logistics of this? Everyone kind of clear on what the overview is and how we can expect to carry it out? Do we think we have a good platform, at least a foundation for success? That's what I'm interested in getting today, is a foundation for success. We don't have to have all the details worked out. We don't have the location. I thought we had the date, but we don't even have that anymore, which is fine. We don't need it. It would have been nice to have it. We don't need it. But I think just having the concept, everyone kind of on the same page, gets it, understand what this idea is about, that was my main goal. So if you've got any concerns, any questions at all, feel free to speak up, and hopefully I'll be able to answer.
There's going to be no like tables for drug counseling or homelessness or anything like that. This is specifically for jobs, specifically for employment.
That's a good point. It's not impossible to do that. I'll give you a little detail on the recruiting day where the veterans are, right? Typically what we'll do is we'll go in 15-minute intervals. There'll be 15 minutes at a table. The employers will get up, rotate, 15 minutes at a table. Employers will get up, rotate, 15 minutes at a table, break for 15 minutes. During that break, we've had resource providers available so the veteran can get up and say, oh, you're with such and such. Either I need this service or I know a veteran that needs this service. So it's definitely not impossible. That's one of the details we can sort of work out. How much space do we have? If there's only enough space for employers, maybe we've only got 1 or 2 tables for service providers, that sort of thing.
And what about like training schools? Because I know I've been saying about Galvanize or Byte Academy or Empower, which want to give away training to veterans for free or have access to their GI Bill. Do you want those guys there also?
Now that I'm not in the government sector, it's not impossible. When I was in the government sector, it was always like, we can't have schools there because if you invite one, you have to invite them all. But now that I'm no longer constrained by those regulations, if it's a good product, I don't have a problem with it. I would be reluctant to let them go around from table to table talking to every individual, because again, that's kind of what the jobs are for. But if they've got a traditional booth back there that advertises their opportunities that can help them advance in their careers, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I'm going to take off my intersections cap and say something from a spouse perspective just for a second. If we are really serious about have this being open to spouses and caregivers, then please with the messaging, make sure that it says spouses and caregivers, military families, however you want to phrase that, because if you don't specifically put that on the flyer, the assumption is that it is not for them and they will not come and it won't be relevant, and make sure that the hiring professionals know that that's a population showing up as well, just so it's not like insulting when they don't know.
Have you been talking with Tina Admiral and Bootstrap Family?
Yes, I was going to offer.
Yeah, because Tina can...
And Hidden Heroes as well.
Family time.
Okay, perfect. And that's a known deficiency in me, is that because I'm a veteran, that's all I've been working with as veterans, is I do tend not minimalize on purpose, but just out of messaging. Yep. I fail to get that across sometimes.
Feel free to send me stuff, I'll tell you how to.
Great, perfect. So yeah, that's a great perspective. Outstanding. Anything else? Anyone on the phone? All right, so I'm going to send this out. You'll have this information. Everyone's got my email address as well already. But if you don't have my phone number, you'll have it after this. Feel free to call me. Again, one of the things there's my website on there as well. One of the things that I mentioned is that I would like to send out to you all the Google group. I think that makes it a little bit easier. My experience with Google groups has been good. Maybe not everyone's the same, but it kind of helps consolidate the conversation, in my opinion, rather than just having disparate email threads throughout your Outlook. It always comes across with the parameter saying this is about military workforce solutions, and you're able to organize them a little bit better. And then again, Paralyzed Veterans America is a congressionally chartered national veteran service organization, and it's a 501c3 organization. So if anyone's looking at the end of the year to
That's right.
All right. From here, what do we do next? I don't think we have a specific call to action other than find a date. A lot of that's on me. Find a date. We can start talking about location, and we can start building save the date flyers and that sort of thing. The one that you all got in my initial email is wrong. Again, the date is wrong, so please do not disseminate it. Anyone on the phone, please do not disseminate that flyer. I will do a new one though once we've got a date, and that'll be probably my first communication through this Google group is how do we or what's going to be the right date. Determining that's going to be key. I don't think we need to have in-person meetings like this but I would like to set up a monthly online meeting that we can all just kind of dial into, and maybe every quarter or so get together face to face. I think there's value in getting together face to face if we can make it to see what everyone's up to and how progress is coming, and what your perspective is. And again, y'all are extremely helpful to me from your perspective and your expertise in this community. I'm not asking you to do a whole lot, I don't think. I hope not anyway, nothing that's that's too burdensome, but just having that perspective from the private sector, from the nonprofit sector, from the public sector, helps, I think, mold the event into one that is going to be one of a kind. So if that's not too burdensome for you, I can start setting up a once a month phone call and maybe a once a quarter in-person thing, if that works. Good. Anyone on the phone have any objections to that? All right, and it is, oh, look at that, I beat 2:30. That is awesome. I was probably shooting for 2:30. And I know the presentation, I kind of talked a lot, and I apologize if I came across as dominating the conversation, but your feedback at any time is welcome. I hope that I didn't come across as one who is not willing to listen, because I certainly am. You all will will be the ones that make this event a success. I'll just be the one that makes it, does the boots on the ground stuff. So, all right. Anyone on the phone? Any alibis, saved rounds?
Hey, Andy, this is Frank Stanley. Hey, do you have a phone number I can reach out to you?
Yeah, did I take it off the screen? It's 202-412-0914.
Great. Hey, if you would also, could you go ahead and forward me the slide deck? I was not able to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll send you it's not a slide deck. It's a Prezi, so you got to have internet access in order to view it. But other than that, it should be fine.
That's great. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Anyone else? Barika, I noticed you joined a little bit later. I apologize for not unmuting you. Do you have anything to add?
No, I don't. I look forward to the next call.
Okay. And I think there's one more person that joined, 646-226-9288. I guess not. All right. Well, thank you all for your time. I am extremely grateful, and I look forward to great things to come. This is going to be a fantastic event, and you all are a huge part of that. And again, you have my unwavering support for whatever you need as well. Thank you very much.